When I was a kid, I used to roll my eyes at people who said music was so much better in my day because the music that I was listening to was obviously the best. And I always thought I'd never grow up to become like that, and I'd always appreciate the current music. And it made me wonder, why does every generation seem to think they have the best music? If you think about baby boomers, they swear nothing beats the Beatles and it went downhill from there. Gen X say it was Nirvana. Millennials, like me, think it was the early 2000s indie pop. Gen Z are already saying music peaked in the early 2010s. So is music actually getting worse? Or is your brain playing tricks on you? If you've ever caught yourself saying music isn't what it used to be, you're far from alone. Researchers have found that people often develop especially strong emotional connections to the music they hear during their teen years and early 20s. These songs don't just remind you of a time, they become part of how you remember who you were. So when you hear them years later, you're not only hearing music, you're hearing memories. One reason for this is what psychologists call reminiscence bump. For most people, the memories that form from around 15 to 25 remain especially vivid throughout their life. So think about everything that happens during that period. There's a lot of firsts. Your first relationship, learning to drive, leaving school, starting university, making lifelong friends. Music becomes a soundtrack to all these experiences. So when a song comes on that you used to listen to in your teenage years, you're not just listening to the song in isolation, you're actually reliving part of your life. Another reason that we get attached to songs that we used to like in our teen years is the mere exposure effect. Think about your teen years. What were the most important things? It was really mainly friends and boyfriends and music. We were obsessed with music when we were teens, and we listened to songs again and again and again. The more we're exposed to something, the more we tend to like it. So by the very nature of listening to music in a period where we had all the time in the world to listen to the music, just means we've heard it so many more times than any songs we're going to listen to nowadays. Hundreds of plays later, the songs feel more familiar, comfortable, and emotionally rewarding. And you just haven't given today's music that time to build that same connection. There's another reason people think music has declined nowadays. It's called survivorship bias. If you think about, for example, the 1980s, what songs do you remember? Most likely it's the classics, the timeless songs, the greatest hits, the one that stood the test of time. Back then, there were thousands of forgettable songs that also disappeared. But what you're unfairly doing nowadays is comparing today's entire music scene to the best songs that stood the test of time and survived 20 years, 30 years. So it's not necessarily that today's music is worse, but you're just comparing the songs that history has declared the best with all of the music. Nowadays, history is filtering out the average songs. So what's the takeaway here? Is today's music getting worse? I suppose it depends how you define worse and better. But psychology suggests that our memories, emotions, and the way our brains process familiarity has a huge influence on what we think sounds better. So the next time somebody says music was better in my day, they might not just be talking about the music. They might be talking about the happiest chapters of their lives. How does that work for you? Do you resonate with this? What music do you consider the best period? Does it link with certain emotions in your life or certain memories? I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments below.